A reading from the Gospel of Luke. Jesus said, "But know this, if the owner of the house had known at what hour the thief was coming, he would not have let his house be broken into. You also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an unexpected hour." Peter said, "Lord, are you telling this parable for us or for everyone?" And the Lord said, "Who then is the faithful and prudent manager whom his master will put in charge of his slaves to give them their allowance of food at the proper time? Blessed is that slave whom his master will find at work when he arrives. Truly, I tell you, he will put that one in charge of all his possessions. But if that slave says to himself, 'My master is delayed in coming,' and if he begins to beat the other slaves, men and women, and to eat and drink and get drunk, the master of that slave will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour that he does not know, and will cut him in pieces, and put him with the unfaithful. That slave, who knew what his master wanted, but did not prepare himself or do what was wanted, will receive a severe beating. But the one who did not know and did what deserved a beating will receive a light beating. From everyone to whom much has been given, much will be required, and from the one to whom much has been entrusted, even more will be demanded." Here endeth the reading. This is one of these wonderful passages of the gospel, and you think, really, Jesus, what are we to do with this? And of course, this all begins, this parable that Jesus tells, is in the middle of using an analogy and saying, if the owner of the house had known what hour the thief was coming, he would not have let his house be broken into. Peter asks an innocent question, "Lord, are you telling this parable for us, the disciples, or for everyone?" And then Jesus launches into this tirade about all imaginable forms of slave beating and punishing and whatnot, which I have to say is a bit distancing to me. However, when I take a moment and settle down and try to hear what it is Jesus is trying to tell Peter, and indeed the rest of us, there is something in this I think most of us can relate to. Who among us hasn't tidied up the house when we knew guests were coming? Who among us hasn't prepared for a meeting on a Wednesday or Thursday and thought, "Oh dear, all of those tasks that are left undone, I'll do them right now"? I mean, Jesus is simply appealing to our knowledge of human nature to remind us that we are, the good news and the bad news is that we are always in God's sight, and that our actions are being noticed and judged. And no one typically thinks the first thing they hear, "Oh, we're going to be judged. Oh, that's great." No, most of us just instinctively would prefer not to have that happen, and certainly not with God as the person who's got an eye towards judging our behavior and what we're doing. However, I still maintain nothing is more depressing in life than to have done all your work on time and to gotten everything done, and then to have, if you're a student, the teacher not ask for your homework, or to have done all the work to prepare for a visit and then to have the person call and say, "Oh, I'm not going to come after all." It can be very difficult to pour ourselves into things and feel that what we're doing is not noticed or evaluated or judged against a standard of whatever type. It usually, when we're doing things, when we're doing them for other people, we want them to be noticed, we want them to be appreciated or at least evaluated, not simply to disappear into the mists of time without any notice or comment. So with all of that, Jesus is speaking into this moment of question for Peter and others. Well, what are you talking about us as caretakers of the flock? Are you talking about every person? Jesus seems to be speaking about everyone who has responsibility for others and who indeed has responsibility for their own life, to know that we are always in the midst of doing something that will come before God's presence and before God's judgment. All throughout this gospel, Jesus has said in about every way he could imagine, and then some, how important it is for us to take seriously that our lives matter. Our lives matter to God. They matter to other people. Indeed, they should matter deeply to us. And that God is not going to give us a polite warning, an email 90 days ahead to say, I'm planning on coming to town, and or you will meet your maker. You know, we've just had the parable about the rich man who improved his barns and stacked up all his goods, and then lo and behold, surprise, I'm meeting Jesus tonight, or meeting God tonight. Jesus is constantly trying to tell us throughout the Gospel of Luke, get your life in order, because your life is unfolding in the vision of a God who knows and loves you and wants not only the best for you, but the best for all of God's creation. And God tends to hold us to account for how we live, how we spend our lives. So with all of that, may we all ponder Jesus' charming parable about beating slaves, and take from that and into ourselves what is profitable, and to take seriously what Jesus says about being ready at any time to meet our Maker, being ready at any time to have our lives unfolded and examined by a loving God, but a God who is paying attention. So may God be with you as you contemplate all these things. May God bless you and keep you this day and always. Amen.